with Kyle Evans. Grow with Kyle Evans.
Good morning, good morning, good morning, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, people of the internet. Glad to be back with you. A lot of tech problems yesterday, but guess what? We kind of got them figured out today, and we're going to rock and roll because I've got a message for you. It's the same one I wanted to give you yesterday, but here we are today. So a day late and a dollar short, but better late than never. Kyle Evans coming to you for the G.R.O.W Show, your daily checkup from the neck up. One of the things that I want to talk to you about is the Phenom, Indiana. Indiana won a national championship. The little engine that could. It wasn't just about a championship. So, like, if you're a yay sports person or like, oh, I don't like football, hear me out. I got a deeper message than that. I think that game on Monday night was an obituary. It was an obituary. It was an obituary for an old story. You see, that team, the Hoosiers, they have lived for decades under a quiet ceiling of neglect. Not imposed by talent, but imposed by identity. And I think this is the deep meaning that follows most of us around in our business, in our lives. Identity is the most expensive lie when it comes to leadership. Identity is the most expensive lie when it comes to leadership. And I'm not talking about necessarily leading a team or an organization. I'm talking about leading yourself, leading your family. Old Kurt Cignetti, the coach of the Indiana team, he walked in and he did one thing that most people are unwilling to do. He refused to negotiate with the past. He refused to negotiate with the past. You see, every organization, every team, every company, every business, they have a script. They have a story. Every single person is operating from a quiet internal narrative. They are. There's a podcast that is playing in 24/7, 65. Now, this team, this school, Indiana, their script sounded like this. We're not a football school. We can compete, but we'll never. This is just how it's always been. The truth of the matter is these sentences are poison. More often than not, it's not because they're loud. It's because they're familiar. Like, I want you to understand that key point. They're so dangerous because they're familiar. They're so dangerous. Our identity, the things that we say to ourselves, the things that we think, they're dangerous because they're familiar. One of the most dangerous sentences, in my opinion, is it's always been done that way. Or that's how I always am. That's how I always was. That keeps you stuck. That is a prison. That is hands. That is shackles. That keeps you stuck. This coach, he didn't argue the story. He just replaced it. And I put up a quote yesterday basically saying, you don't beat an old identity with motivation. You smother it to death with new behavior. You don't negotiate with an old identity. You don't negotiate with an old story. You don't try to morale it all the way through. You just replace it with an overwhelming amount of new behavior that tells the story you desire. No speeches about destiny. There was no begging players to believe. He just installed a new operating procedure and stayed loyal to that. Every day, same expectations. Every day, the same language. Every day, the same consequences. Every day. The identity changes because the evidence begins to change. It's the consistency that wins. More often than not, in my opinion, one of the reasons we stay stuck is because we're looking for sexy, and that's not where change happens. It usually happens in the unsexy. Everybody loves the championship parade. Everybody loves the championship confetti. Ain't nobody love the championship preparation. Here's what Indiana actually did to win, to change the script. They did film sessions that didn't flinch from the truth, not in shame, not in judgment, but in awareness, in ownership. Practices where details were corrected immediately. They had meetings where standards were not explained, just enforced. They had accountability that did not depend on the mood. Ladies and gentlemen, I'm talking with you, not at you this morning. We've got to embrace accountability that does not depend on our mood. Culture isn't what we do when the cameras are on. Culture, character is what we do when no one's looking. It's damn sure what we do when we don't feel like doing it, when we're tired, when it's cold, when it's wet. What do you do when no one's watching? The mistake I see most people make, the mistake that I have made, is we confuse intensity with consistency. This coach for the team, he chose consistency. And ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, consistency always wins. But it's not sexy, and it's boring, and it takes time. But newsflash, that's real life. That's real life. When you think about the process, a lot of times losing programs, losing businesses, they're fearful programs. They're fearful businesses. They fear being exposed. They fear rejection. They fear making mistakes. They feel being embarrassed. People fear falling short publicly. So we play not to lose. Process helps that. Process removes fear, because when expectations are clear, fear has nowhere to hide. You know what a winning play looks like. You know what preparation requires. You know how effort is measured. The expectation is clear. The process is clear. The clarity frees people. Jocko Willink talks about this. Discipline equals freedom. Freedom is not the absence of rules. Freedom is knowing exactly how to win. Freedom is knowing the contract that you've made with yourself that is non-negotiable. That's freedom. And where discipline lives, freedom lives. Kobe Bryant is famous for this. R.I.P. Black Mamba. Winners don't negotiate with standards. That's where most transformations fail. We soften, we waver when things get hard. We waver when the new car smell gets replaced. We negotiate with ourselves. We look to be pragmatic in it and logical. This coach for Indiana, how he changed the script is he didn't do that. The standard wasn't emotional. It wasn't personal. It was positional. If you meet it, you play. If you don't, you don't. No drama, no vendettas, no ego. Gary Keller, founder of Keller Williams, talks about this. He says, I love you, but my standards do not. There's no ego there. The rules are the rules. That's how trust is built. That's how foundation is built. That's how consistency is built. More often than not, people don't trust leaders who are nice all the time. They trust leaders who are fair yet firm. One of the things Gary talks about is To add, you have to first subtract. Subtraction is the hidden discipline of winners, is the hidden discipline of champions. Because every single person wants to add a new system. Every person wants to add a new play, a new technology, new talent, new motivations. But champions actually subtract first. Indiana did a good job of this. They subtracted excuses dressed up as explanations. They subtracted almost wins celebrated like championships. They subtracted comfort disguised as culture. They subtracted nostalgia for how hard it used to be. Every subtraction creates space. Space for clarity, space for the new program, space for the rules, space for execution. Guys, most teams, they don't need more tools. Most businesses don't need more tools. They need fewer distractions. One of the things that I love the most, and I'm not like a bandwagon man or anything like that, but I like this guy because he is unapologetically himself. This guy didn't rebrand himself. Kirk Signetti, the coach, he did not rebrand himself. He didn't soften his edge to be liked. He didn't try to win press conferences or the masses. He coached in alignment with what he believed in, what was authentic to himself. Direct, demanding, predictable. Predictability is kindness in leadership. It removes anxiety. It removes ambiguity. When people know what you stand for, they don't need to guess. That's kindness. When guessing stops, anxiety goes down. When guessing stops, execution improves. Charisma fades, but clarity, and that's the truth behind winning. Each and every one of you listening, each and one of the eyeballs paying attention today, you are special the way you are. And I'm not saying that in some sort of nursery rhyme, Barney thing. I mean it. Stop trying to win everyone else's game of being themselves. Be yourself. Show up the way you are. Show up with who you are. Resonate with that. Bring that forward and then demand the best version of you. Not the best version of me, not the best version of somebody on social media, the best version of simply you. That leads to real confidence. That leads to being in the pocket, that alignment with who you actually are. Confidence is a byproduct. It's not a prerequisite. To get that confidence, we have to understand the truth. It's from showing up repeatedly. The mistake most people make is they think that confidence comes first, and it doesn't. Confidence is the receipt you get after discipline. Indiana, God bless them, they didn't walk in confident. They walked in committed. Confidence showed up later. After thousands of reps. After many corrected mistakes. After continuing to just show up. After seeing proof stack up. We don't talk people into confidence. We train it into them. By consistency, not intensity. The reason I wanted to talk to you about this today is because it's not about football. It's about how we lead our businesses, our homes, our families, ourselves. This is a business owner who inherit a broken culture. Maybe it's about business owners who created a business culture that is not good and they want to change it. This is about sales teams that are stuck in mediocrity. More importantly, this is about individuals who are trapped by an outdated self-image. You don't change outcomes by wanting them. Everybody wants. But are you willing to do the thing to get it? That's the big difference. That's the chasm that most people can't cross. You change outcomes, you change identity by what happens on ordinary days. Championships are built on Wednesdays, not on Saturdays. They're built in the mundane, not the national stage. Your business is built on how you show up from 9 a.m. to 12 every single workday. That's the difference. That's the truth. But it's not sexy. And that's why most people get bored. And that's why they move on. And that's why they fall in the hamster wheel of mediocrity. Teddy Roosevelt said it best in The Man in the Arena. It's just like, even if you fail, at least you fail essentially in the pursuit of. So you're never like the cold and timid souls who never actually know victory nor defeat. It is not the critic who counts. It is not how the strong how the person points at how the strong man stumbles or how the doer of deeds could have done better. The glory, the credit goes to the person in the arena whose face is marred by dust, by sweat, by blood. That's the truth. And that happens on ordinary days. I want you to take this and I want you to apply it to your life, to your business. I want you to name the old story. We've got to name it, we've got to claim it, and then we got to tame it. What narrative has been running unchecked in your world? Then what I want you to do is define the non-negotiables, the rules in which you will live by. What behaviors will win? Write them down. Write them down. Dominican University has done a study, and we've quoted this many times. When you write down a goal, physically write it down. The likelihood of you hitting it jumps up by like 40%. That's science. That's not opinion. Define the non-negotiables. Write them down. Then I want you to enforce without emotion. Standards don't need anger. They don't need anger. They just need consistency. They need fairness and firmness. They need grit and grace. Enforce without emotion. Then I want you to measure what matters daily. What we measure moves. What gets tracked gets trained. The last piece is be okay with letting your identity catch up. Stop asking for belief and start demanding behavior. That's the trick. That's the trick. That's the trick. Coach Signetti, he didn't perform a miracle. He just simply ran a system. Over and over and over again. And systems consistently repeated always beat speeches. Guys, Indiana didn't wake up national champions. They went to sleep disciplined over and over and over until winning felt normal. We don't become elite by simply declaring it. We become elite by doing the boring things relentlessly well. Indiana changed because someone finally cared more about the process than the past. Ladies and gentlemen, that's not football, that's leadership. Thank you for showing up this morning for your daily checkup from the neck up. Kyle Evans out. I will see you tomorrow morning. Have a good one.
Grow with Kyle Evans.